Welcome to this Cabinet meeting today at Newcastle Borough Council. Welcome to councillors in the room and also our officers. And for those joining us online on YouTube, if you want to see the agenda, there's a link to it in the section below the video. First item is apologies. I've got apologies today from Trevor Johnson and also from Jill Heasom, but I'm joined here today by Cabinet members, Councillor Andy Fear, portfolio holder for strategic planning, Councillor Joe Waring, portfolio holder for leisure, culture and heritage, and Deputy Leader Councillor Stephen Sweeney, Deputy Leader for finance, town centres and growth and some other things, and I'm Leader of the Council, Simon Tagg. First thing I want to do is just to, obviously we've got the hottest day of not only the year, but I think all time in the UK today, and getting hotter as the day goes on. I'd like to thank all council staff that have been working out in the hot weather the last few days, particularly collecting bins, obviously the street scene staff and everybody else that's working with the council who's helping to keep services going during this hot weather. It must be really toiling to be out on the bins today, particularly from mid-morning onwards today when we've had the massive rise in temperature today. Also, yesterday we had the Queen's Baton relay as well across the borough. First place it started, I believe, in the West Midlands, isn't it, Jill? And we had events over at Keele, the Belong Centre, Harecastle Tunnel, and also the pump track in Kidsgrove, which were well attended and went ahead as planned with precautions in place, obviously because of the hot weather. But just like to pass thanks to all the people involved in that and also our staff throughout this hot weather period. Item 2 is declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations from members for any items on the agenda? Item 3 is minutes of the previous meeting, attached on page 3 to 6. Can we agree those as a correct record? Thank you. Item 4, Wallis Quarry odour issues. Monthly update. I'll hand over to our Chief Executive, who's going to take us through the report, which is in the familiar format that we've had at each Cabinet meeting, so we can have an update on the ongoing issues with odours at Wallis Quarry. Martin.
Thank you, Leader. So as the Leader said, the report before you today is in the same format as we've followed really over the last year and a half, I guess, and contains the complaint data and also the air quality monitoring data from the 4 static stations. And what we also have an appendix to the report today is the latest quarter's results for the Jerome handheld monitoring units that we deploy. So in terms of activity that's happening on the site at the moment, the Environment Agency have been continuing their fairly intense work with the site that's been going on for the last little while, and there's progress being made in terms of capping of the site and also in terms of the improvements to the gas management on site. And you will see from the complaint data that we did have the spike in problems earlier in the year, but through the end of June and into July, the complaint data coming through to both ourselves and to the Environment Agency, the reports that come to them, are significantly down. So really, for the first time in quite some time, we are now seeing weekly complaints in single figures, only 4 for that, the most recent week in July. And that is then, one of the things that we see is the complaint figures do fairly faithfully track the hydrogen sulfide levels that are measured at the 4 monitoring stations. The 4 monitoring stations, the data that we have for those are the percentage of time that the annoyance threshold, which is 7 micrograms of hydrogen sulfide per cubic meter, is breached for more than half an hour. And you will see, again, really for the first time, I think since we've started to keep these records, we got 2 consecutive weeks with no half-hour exceedances of the annoyance threshold at any of the monitoring stations. We've had zeros at some of the monitoring stations before, but there's quite often been a problem at Gallingale, which is typically where the highest levels are, but two consecutive weeks there with zeros. Now, the position that we find ourselves in with this members will be aware that there has in the past been a seasonality to the odour complaints and the odours experienced around Wally's Quarry. So on one hand, we have been enjoying some very settled warm weather, and also alongside that, there has been work going on site in order to cap 2 cells, one cell permanently and the other cell on a temporary basis. Members will be familiar with the contain, capture, destroy strategy that's being followed here, and capping the site in order to seal gas into the site so that it can be collected through the gas management system and destroyed through the gas engines or flare is a critical part of this. So at this stage, there are, these are probably the best 2 weeks that we've seen since data has come along. But the critical issue for us now is to really ascertain, is this a seasonal issue, or is this the product of the improvements on site around gas capping and gas management, or indeed is this a product of the two? So we need to continue to do the monitoring through these sites to see that to see the extent to which this level is continued. One of the critical indicators that comes from the Environment Agency's work is the level of gas that's actually collected and destroyed. And currently that is relatively steady over the last while at 3,000 cubic meters per hour coming off the site and being destroyed. And that is significantly up from the time when there were the most problems with odour sort of a year or so ago. The more gas that gets collected and destroyed, the less opportunity there is for fugitive emissions to be escaping into the atmosphere. And then the third thing, or I guess the fourth thing, just to draw to attention, is the Jerome Monitoring. You'll be aware that we have procured 2 of these handheld air quality monitoring devices called Jeromes, and we've deployed those in properties around the borough from time to time, leave them typically for a week or so in order to see what's happening inside properties over a period. So over the second quarter, we got 16 sets of readings. 15 of those showed concentrations above 0 being measured. And for, I think it's 6 of them, we saw the World Health Organization air quality guideline for annoyance, that's 7 micrograms per meter cubed, averaged over half an hour. That was measured 6 times. So we, in that second quarter of the year, we're still seeing the presence of hydrogen sulfide as measured by the Jeromes in people's homes at a level that will create annoyance. So, and again, we are continuing to deploy those and gather that information and share it. An update then on another issue that I can't remember, it was the last cabinet or the cabinet before. Members asked that we review the opportunities to take further legal action regarding this issue. We have carried out a further review of the opportunities, and the advice that we have at the moment is there's no further legal action that the council can take directly, and we really need to focus on progressing the statutory nuisance case that has already begun in line with our statutory role there. And through, in addition, Cabinet had asked for a political body to be established to sit alongside the Strategic Coordinating Group, which is the multi-agency body that is trying to coordinate action around the quarry. And that has now been agreed, and the first meeting of that is being arranged. So that will provide an opportunity for senior members of this council, the county council, the police, fire, and crime commissioner, and to be coming together with senior officers across agencies to really to provide some constructive challenge around progress on this. So as I say, the data is indicating an improved position, but it's much too early to say that this is to be sustained.
Thank you, Marty, for that comprehensive report. I agree with you. I think obviously the figures going in the right direction, but we are in high summer at the moment, aren't we? We are in a period of a very dry spell. I think if you look back through the year of data we've got here, you could probably track to dry spells and warmer weather when this has gone down. But it's still encouraging. It gives a bit of relief to people that have suffered this, but I know that it hasn't gone away. Obviously, complaint figures down, which reflect the fact, as we said before, as you said, Martin, it is quite clear that the monitoring station data does track pretty closely with the complaints data. So we know that people are only complaining when they do smell the odours. So I think that's going in the right direction. Just on further action considered, thank you for bringing back the legal advice that there's nothing we can do at present really to complement anything we've done already. We've wrote to government, we've made complaints about the EA's regime of not only monitoring but also legally holding this company to account. So there's nothing more we can do. But I think, our focus should be, and you're quite right to say this, Marty, should be on pursuing this statutory nuisance process. And that's what we've intend to do. And at full council, we had a week or so ago, full council had a presentation from yourself, Martin. I think there was broad agreement that we do continue this path and towards statutory nuisance. And when that is over, let's consider what actions we take following that in the light of any legal advice we receive after that. But I'm going to open it up now to Cabinet members for any comments. Councillor Fear.
Thanks very much. I think, first of all, thanks for the report and the clear way in which these things are laid out. I think it makes it very, very clear what's going on and when. That said, again, I agree entirely that 4.4 on page 11, not sure what's gone on because there's a 4.4 on the following page, but the first one anyway is the important one that we do need to watch this in the future. It's too early to say the job is done. We're clearly going in the right direction. I often go home along the Ulm Road, and certainly still at the very top of the Ulm Road, quite a few times when I turn around there is a whiff in the air. So, this definitely isn't something we can say is resolved yet, and we need to keep working to do that. That said, it's nice to see the figures going in the right directions. It's also nice to see the figures which are instantly, I think, readable to people and show that complaints do track nuisance and such like. So all of that is good. All that we can say is I think 4.4 points is the thing. We shouldn't be complacent about this.
Thank you, Andy. Any other comments? Steve?
Well, I just concur with everything that Andy's just said. I think it's interesting that these 2 weeks have been nil. Is it because it's getting sorted? Is it going the right way? Is it because it's not rained for ages? Does that make a difference? I certainly think it's encouraging, and I think as long as we keep this going like we're doing now and see if these 0 weeks carry on, but I think it's going the right way, isn't it, at the end of the day? Thank you.
Yes, I agree. And the proof of the pudding is in the smell of it, isn't it? So let's see what happens over the next few weeks, and hopefully we'll move in the right direction. But our abatement notice process goes on, and obviously we know we're heading towards a court date later in the year, in the autumn, very early autumn. Just last thing before we move on is obviously we've discussed the issues with lorries and the stacking of lorries outside the site. Since we last met, a plan application has been submitted relating to the site being opened an hour earlier to allow lorries to go on and stack on site. That's currently with the county council, and they'll be putting that through their processes and making a decision on that in due course. But it's just something to note that we've discussed before, that an application has come in that regard. Okay, so recommendation before us is that we note the contents of the report and reaffirm the commitment to the process, of the legal process we signed up to in the report. I think we'll look at that again after the abatement notice is complete and review that going forward. All agreed? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is our provisional financial outturn 21-22. Over to you, Stephen.
Thank you very much. This report details our financial outturn position as at the 31st of March 2022. The report's already gone to audit standards on the 27th of June. The current regulation requires a draft statement of accounts to be completed by the 31st of July. Ours were actually completed by the 20th of June, so we're well in advance of where we need to be. The draft statement of accounts have been made available for public inspection, and the external audit has commenced this week, actually started yesterday. The audited statement of accounts will be presented to the Audit Standards Committee on the 14th of November in order for them to be published by the 30th of November. The biggest highlight for me really is that the council has made a surplus of something like £4,000 on our revenue budget, which in these trying times I think is excellent. Income shortfalls due to COVID amounted to £1.273 million. However, these have been offset by government grants and reimbursement from the government income losses scheme as a result of COVID. Now, we've always banged on for the last 2 years about how Rishi Sunak and Boris Johnson were going to put their arms around councils to put the money in place that we were losing because of COVID. And I think this is a perfect example of that. The government has actually done exactly what it says it's done and helped councils like ourselves through a very, very bad 2 years. And I think you're commended for it. That's the highlights for me. Anybody else wants to make any comments? I'm happy to take them. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Join you in your comments there about the support we had from the government during this period, which is very crucial. Once in a generation, if not a lifetime, incident that happened with the COVID pandemic and then the lockdowns. I think we know we're still living with the result of the lockdowns, particularly as this affected the economy and people's health and etc. in the long term. But the government really delivered for us, and you're quite right. Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak, as our Chancellor during that period, did the job for us as local government. And I think, all councils benefited, and we benefited as them all, to help us to keep the services going, keep ourselves head above water. And that's recorded really in this provisional financial outturn report, which we've got today. Open up to any comments from other cabinet members. Jill.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I'd just like to say that I think the officers have made a really first-class job of keeping control of the finances during the previous financial year. I think it's remarkable that they've managed to remain within the budget overall. And like you've said, we have been greatly assisted by fantastic level of support from our government, which have given to all local councils. And I think it's fantastic. So well done, everyone. Thank you.
Any other comments? No, I think just to end, I think also while all this was going on, the government, through the leadership of the Prime Minister and also the Chancellor at the time, ensured we still had all of the levelling up money coming through. All them bids we put in were processed very quickly. We're now beginning to see the benefits of that investment. Already seen it in Kidsgrove with the sports centre, which will open on the 25th of July, next Monday. Was it already opened? What's the date today? No, next Monday, yes, 25th of July. Don't know where we are in the week. And also the money for the Future High Street Fund schemes in Newcastle, we're motoring ahead with the redevelopment of the Rycroft, and more news will come out about the developments on there in due course. But recommendation for us is that the general fund outturn and issues in respect to the council's financial position at the 31st of March 2022 is noted. All agreed? Thank you. Next item is the item 6, local plan issues and strategic options consultation feedback. Andy.
Thanks very much. I think pretty much everyone around this table will be familiar with this report, which has already gone to scrutiny, where it was by consensus well received. I suppose some of the key things we can pull out of it, if we look on page 34, 2.1, just noting that we did have very long consultation, substantially longer than the statutory minimum. The other thing I think that's important here is that unlike other adjacent councils, we did not only do stuff online, we had face-to-face meetings. And again, of course, that was in a period where there was a recrudescence of COVID. So I think hats off to our council staff who manned those meetings and allowed those to go forward. So I think, it is important that we have face-to-face stuff as well as computer stuff. We managed to do that, and thank you very much to those who were involved. Looking at the actual material, there's a very long report here that people can drill down into if they want to. But I think it is, some of the things we can say. We devised a hierarchy of centres in the borough. We seem to have a consensus that that's the right hierarchy that we've got there. The other thing, of course, that a lot of people are saying is that we want to be checking out all our bits of brownfield land before we go developing elsewhere. And we are very much determined that that is what we're going to do. We will check out the brownfield stuff before we go forward. We've taken all of this on board. That means that we are now, I think, okay for the second part of this process. It is important to keep our development of a local plan on target so that we're not short of one. We get one in place as soon as possible. So I'm working with our officers here to make sure that we're going to get that consultation out and get it out this year in a timely fashion. Again, happy to take any questions if people have got them.
Thank you, Andy. Yeah, just endorse what you said about the consultation itself. I mean, it got a lot of criticism, unfair criticism in the run up to the election. I think it was a bit of politics coming into play from various political parties. I think we received from the former Labour leader a complaint letter about the consultation, and they claimed that they were going to restart the local plan if they had gained a majority on this council. I think I agree with you. It's time to push ahead. I think take the consultation as attached and use that to shape the future of the local plan, and all of those sections which you just referred to on page 38 through to 40 on the vision, the housing employment need, the options for growth, hierarchy of centres, housing needs, strategic employment sites. This is building the future of the borough and also the growth of the borough, which is so vitally important for jobs and for people to have quality homes that they can live in and stay in, and their children can live and stay in Newcastle as we begin to grow. But also, I think it's important that we state that we want to protect our green spaces. That's why we have protected over 60 urban green spaces in the last year for carbon capture areas and tree planting, but also to preserve them for local residents so they can use them as their green lungs, etc. So I think this is we've got a balanced plan. And I think what it says in the report, which I think we need to mention also, is that we're taking a brownfield first strategy. We're going to exhaust as much as we can of the brownfield for housing and employment sites before we have to go any further. So that's clear in this plan. I think that should be a guiding principle as we go forward into the autumn when we do the next consultation. I think it's crucial that we crack on and we have that consultation this year to keep up the momentum on the original plan that we put in place when we split from the joint local plan with Stoke, which I believe was the wrong plan for Newcastle and was setting us against the growth targets of a city rather than a market town. And I think I'm much more happier to be in charge of our own destiny and deciding our own local plan while working with our neighbours such as Stoke, Moorlands, and also Stafford and East Staffs and Shropshire to get the right mix and balance and fairness for local people through our own borough local plan. Open it up to any of you, Steve.
I'll just reiterate really what Andy says. The consultation starts on 1st November, finished 24th of January. That's taken 10 weeks, 10, 11 weeks. And I think that has to be 6 weeks, doesn't it? Is that what the law is? So people well consulted. And I think the brownfield sites first is vitally important, really. I think it's always a complaint you hear from residents, you should build on brownfield. Well, it's in here that we're going to do that. No, I absolutely support and support everything both of you just said. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Back to you, Andy. Anything further to say?
No, I think at the moment, as I say, we're very grateful to everybody who's had an input onto this. It's all gone into the machine and we are taking this on board. It's gone to scrutiny. We've had some interesting feedback from scrutiny. That's gone into the equation as well. And I think we're on time to get on with the next stage of this plan. And as I agree with you entirely, it is important to do this in a timely fashion.
Thank you, Andy. So recommendations for us, we note the feedback and also as you said earlier, Andy, that it has been through the process of scrutiny, which is vitally important. So all members who are on that scrutiny committee were allowed to have a say, and also we fed it through the leaders' statement process as well. So all agreed those recommendations. Thank you. Moving on to our next item, which is the Shared Prosperity Fund report, which again is a vitally important one. We're just talking about the money we've had from the government relating to levelling up. This is another angle of that. This is the replacement for European funding, which of course we never actually got to see much of or decided much of how that was spent here in Newcastle. This now is a fund that's coming directly to us to look to level up our area and also on key objectives as set out in the rules for the Shared Prosperity Fund. We are moving at pace on this in the first wave of this, and we've already set up a board, and it will meet tomorrow. We've already gone out for applications from partners. I think as we look at further phases of this, we can certainly expand that, I think, rather than it being and probably have more time to do this as well, rather than rushing. But we do have significant amount of money there for projects, and we will be allotting that based on our priorities and the priorities of the organisations that have put the applications in, and also the priorities set down by the government, which are for around growth, are for job skills, and also for carbon reduction and protecting the environment. So there's a whole raft of recommendations there that we have already begun to implement. Some of those with setting up a board, and I've invited members to come onto that board, which are detailed under, I believe, 2.6, the list of partners from across the Borough, county, universities, Aspire, members of Parliament as well will be on that, so we can shape this funding bids to the best, so we get the best out of it for our residents in Newcastle. So recommendations A to D, I won't read them out, but I move them now and hand over to Steve.
Thank you, Leader. The EU, what a wonderful organisation that is. What we would have done in the past is we would give the EU money to spend on what they want. They would then redistribute it all around Europe, take a cut themselves to run their administration, and then what was left they would give us back. And we would be grateful and thankful and say, oh, thank you, Mr. EU, for giving us some of our own money back. You know, I'll give you £1 and you give me 90 pence back and I'm grateful, which is a concept I could never really follow with the EU. This is a case in point. This is money, it's our money, and it's coming straight to us to do what we want to do with it without being creamed off for other parts of Europe. And it's a perfect example of the waste of time, effort and energy the EU was. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Steve. Andy.
Thanks very much. No, again, I think this is very much to be welcomed. As Steve's just said, this is a question of simply bringing our own money home and also being able to choose what we want to do with it, which seems to me entirely fair and equitable, and an enormous progress on where we were before. This is a manifest and clear Brexit bonus, and I think it's being used well.
Thank you, Andy. Any other comments? No. Okay. So recommendations before us, and obviously recommendation 3 is worth noting there that obviously we'll be bringing something back to Cabinet with an update on the delivery of these projects. And I think, you know, we will be probably setting up a dedicated part of the website and doing comms around this as we move forward as well, to let people know on how this this money is going to be spent for us. And we've been allocated £4.8 million for Newcastle, and each of the districts across the county have had a similar amount based on the population, and also the county has had a sum of money as well, which is being coordinated across the county. So again, government delivering on what they said they would do, giving money to areas that need to level up, particularly, and Newcastle is doing very well out of that, and hope made that continue. And we must make sure we deliver those schemes which we said we're going to do, whether they're Future High Streets Fund, whether they're town deals, or whether they're through this new fund that's being set up now. But recommendations I've moved, all agreed? Thank you. Next item then is the commercial strategy, item 8. Steve.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Commercial activity is not new to the council. The council has a substantial commercial property portfolio that contributes £400,000 annually, but it's not enough. We need more as time progresses. Now, there's certain items are limited on here, listed on here. Land Apedale, for example, in Chesterton in January 22, Cabinet approved the letting of this 4.5-acre site on a 25-year term for battery storage, which not only ticks our green credentials, it always it produces an income for this council as well. Land at Chatterley Valley, and this is absolutely fantastic. This is town deal money, bringing forward this land in Chatterley Valley. The ex-Labour leader, for reasons best known to him, opposes this, and I have absolutely no idea why. It is it's a tremendous thing that's going to take this council forward and produce high quality jobs. 1,800 high quality jobs there. Land off Hassel Street, that's the old Ritzy's nightclub that's been pulled down. There's industrial units going on the back of that that will get an income from. So these are the sort of things that we're talking about. York Place, which is a very tired shopping centre in Newcastle that we've bought for redevelopment. There's a lot of things starting. It's not there yet. There's more work to be done on this, and we need to generate more money for ourselves. However, these exciting sort of things is a sign, I think, that this council is moving in the right way, although by no means it's a finished article. Thank you, Lou.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, agree with what you said there. And this is a progress report on the commercial strategy, which takes us forward with those list of income generation opportunities. Particularly, I talk about the land at Parkhouse Road West in Chesterton. That's a good development. And also it's got the green credentials there as well, which we need to push. And I think one of the things we must look to commercialize is energy generation in the future. I think through renewable energy, I think we've got a lot of buildings, a lot of areas which we could maximize the generation of power, particularly through solar power. And I think the market for that is probably right for us to get in there. And of course, all this commercial strategy is not only about delivering the jobs and the business opportunities for people. It's also about bringing in money that will help us to support the council's budget when times are hard, and more often than not, times are hard in local government. So the more we can maximise these potentials and bring in income, it will help us to continue to deliver services. And
thanks very much. Yep, I agree with the portfolio holder. These are good signs. It shows that the council is interested in taking the borough forward, and we are sowing the seeds to help that happen. I'm particularly pleased actually at the Chatley Valley site, and I've been on the council longer than I care to remember, but some of around this table will remember Councillor Ted Holland, who always used to talk about the Chatley Valley as the jewel in the development crown. And it's I go to work that way. I've seen it just sitting there for a long time, and it's really good now to see that there's progress being made. As has been said, it will bring jobs, and in fact, high quality jobs into the borough. Quite why anyone would be against bringing high quality jobs into the borough is utterly beyond me. So I think this is very much to be welcomed. Zanzibar, as was, I think again, this is land that needs to be brought back into use. I do hope, and I believe Aspire are very keen on this. I mean, what I would say is that, of course, the last redevelopment brought that rather attractive painted commercial sign from the past into view. It's a lovely gateway thing as you come down into the town, and I would very much hope that when we progress that site, that can somehow be preserved, because I think it does enhance the borough and indeed makes the borough an interesting place to come to.
Any comments, Jill? No, okay, so we got the recommendations before us there. That we note the progress. We delegate authority to seek and secure suitable investment, and then authorise our directors in consultation with the deputy leader to procure feasibility studies on these those detailed under 2.7. And also I think this will be an interest of the scrutiny committee as well. FAPS, I'm sure that they will be interested to have a look at this as well. I'm not sure if it's timetable. Perhaps you could suggest that it does go to them for scrutiny in the autumn perhaps. And this will, as I've said, is the big chance for us to begin to generate some income and also help jobs and skills and other things in the borough. So all agreed? Thank you. Next item is item number 9, the award of contract provision of children and young persons domestic abuse support service for the period 22 to 25. This is brought to us as a late item through necessity, that we retrospectively then approved the award of contract for this for the Honeycomb Charitable Services Limited, followed by the completion of a compliant procurement process. So this would have been delivered by Jill Heeson, but she's unable to be here today, so I'm introducing this. So I think we've had the one bid, and the recommendation is obviously that we retrospectively agree that the contract for the provision of children and young people's domestic abuse support service on behalf of Newcastle Partnership and the Borough Council of Newcastle under Lyme is through Honeycomb Charitable Services Limited. Jill?
Yes, thank you, Leader. The purpose of this service is to offer specialist support to children and young people affected by domestic abuse, either due to them witnessing it within the family home or experiencing it within their own relationships. It's a sad thing. We need to have this, but we do. Our partnership team needs support with this. And Honeycomb was the bid that we did have. There were a number of interested parties, but this was the only bid that we received. So it's only going to be awarded for a brief period of time of 10 months. Then after that, we can look at it again and assess the performance, which our officers will be doing. Thank you.
Phil, any other comments? So recommendation forward as I've read out, all agreed? Great. Thank you. Next item 10 is our forward plan. I'll look at what's coming up on Council Cabinet in the next 3 months. We'll start on page 130, which details today's Cabinet meeting. All items have been brought. September, we've got key items there relating to Wallace Quarry, quarter one budget performance report, our council plan, which will be an item to look at in detail when we launch our council plan, which is our plan for the 4 years ahead of this administration. And also we have an update from the Kidsgrove Town deal. Can we agree that forward plan? Thank you. Next item is item 11, urgent business. I don't have any. Item 12 is disclosure of exempt information. We don't have any items which we need to resolve that public be excluded. And then finally, I haven't had any notifications of members of the council wishing to attend or speak at Cabinet, nor members of the public. So I call this meeting to a close. Everybody please enjoy the sunshine, stay safe and watch out for the rain tomorrow. Thank you.